I'm gonna end it. But realize that there are people out there that are bad. But through certain realize that there are good intentions to be able to manipulate as well. To be able to tell people that there are certain things that you need to be able to be a part of in order to be able to be a part of this world. And there are things that you should listen to and know because of the situations that happen every single day in your life. And through certain reflexes, like I watched Philip DeFranco now, and now I do gestures for no fucking reason. There are certain people out there that believe that through manipulation of thought patterns or manipulation of fact, that you can be manipulated into believing or wanting any product that they sell. But also really believe and know that some of those people are good, or most of those people are good. There is a huge number of people that are out there that want so badly for people to be able to create a situation for themselves that they can make and manipulate into something that there is. Let's see.
What? Crap.
You can make a situation and make them believe
Jesus Christ!
in an instance that that there are people out there that believe them, and there are people out there that want to be around them. There is a leak sometimes, and a lot of things sometimes, and people don't understand that there's a leak in information sometimes, and once that information comes about, people themselves try to take advantage of it and try to make people believe. Like, say for instance, that guy who was a cop, and they had a guy that got a squad car, or got a used squad car, and just kept riding it around and acting like he was a police officer, saying to different businesses that he needed money or getting stuff for free, or getting anything for free, and trying to extort people. It's like, with what he was doing, he was trying to create a insinuation. And through that insinuation, he thought that he'd never get caught. He thought that he'd never actually stop believing in something, or actually believe in something at all. But he thought that through that manipulation, he'd be able to create a career for himself by insinuating. It's part of what the imaginative side of what he believed. And that's of what he believed. And I said, what? Of what he believed. And that's the reason why I don't think people understand the realizations of what cops actually go through in order to be able to create a better life for themselves. And what people don't realize that people are trying to do because of a certain situation that happened in a certain thing because they were betting and sometimes betting real money on whether or not a government would fall. Because of a certain number of manipulations. There are certain people out there that would bet on literally any sort of thing. They would bet on anything or anyone. It's like, say for example, that scene in a cabin in the woods. That's based on fact. There were certain organizations in the world back in like the 70s, 60s that would bet real cold hard cash, like millions of dollars, whether or not there was a certain, and some people used it, but it was a bet nonetheless, and it was done mostly outside of the country. There were people in the 70s that believed that there was a terrorist, and they found out that there were terrorists because of a certain bet that they made beforehand. People get into trouble through certain variables and certain situations, and the less control you have in certain situations, the less you're going to be able to make it out safely. Realize that the control you put on whatever bet you put down, no matter if it's monetarily or otherwise, a bet you have with yourself or anything. Realize that bet is an emotion. It is a thought. It's realizing that any pattern or anything can actually happen. That possibility through probability is thought of. Like the Saints getting a certain number of points in a certain number of quarters. which never happens because they always go either in the fourth quarter. They always make like 20 to 30 points, and that's their average. In certain regulatory games, and the amount of games that I've actually seen, I've seen the pattern itself, and it's pretty staggering and mind-numbing sometimes because of the amounts of points that they make in the fourth quarter. So realized I had a booger on my finger. Realize that there are certain reasons why you should be able to be prepared and control a situation if you ever want to be able to create a career on your own. Because people see when people do good things. They do. They really see it. And then just because they're not around, it doesn't mean they won't want to be around for you later on. And it means that in a situation that you act appropriately or honorably, it doesn't mean that there's like it doesn't mean that there's a career out there for you. It doesn't mean that there's a place out there for you, but it means that through your self-control and realizing a certain number of variables, you realize a certain situation wasn't good or was great or was amazing or was terrible, and you realize that situation you had to get out of it. And when you had to get out of it, you realize that the situation, that the situation was terrible for you, and all you had to do was leave. So realize that my specific situation was that. But it's not every situation. Just because you feel like walking away so badly because of someone's insensitivity, or because of your own insensitivity and not being compounded with their insensitivity, it doesn't mean that situation is going to be the best for you always. But it also means that people themselves don't believe your words sometimes. It also means that sometimes people aren't going to have faith in you when the time comes and something actually happens that's bad to them. They're not going to believe what you think, or how you think it, or the way you think it. So that's what happens, and you have to be able to change someone's mind with a variable of some kind, with a variable that says, hey, look at this thing that's happening right now, and you have to be able to get it peer-reviewed. And that's the way science works, because science is science, and people don't realize that the situations they create sometimes aren't everything that's in the environment. Like, there are certain methane pockets around New Orleans, and it creates a certain number of flammable things. And a certain number of fires might actually be around in the next 2,000 to 7,000 years. But it doesn't mean that setting a building on fire, because I've seen fires before. I saw a fire the other night, and it sucked, because I realized it was a natural gas fire. And I realized there was nothing I could do about it, because it was too far away. Realizing there are situations out there that have you written all over them, and you being a part of them is the best thing for you. So realize those situations are better. Don't be a hacker, because it sucks. And also, my phone got hacked into, and someone decided that they were going to say one of my not PDF. One of my text files was bad, so I had to erase the app because they had messed with it. So I know I'm being hacked. I'm just trying to find out who it is so I can just go politely to them and destroy their computer. No, I'm not gonna do that. It's never gonna happen. I'm gonna put a firecracker in it. No. Just realize that there are situations out there that if you don't participate in, there are certain situations where you won't be a part of a certain person's life. And if there are certain things you don't realize, that there are certain variables where if you don't understand what it takes to be able to make it for yourself, if you don't understand what it takes to be able to do things for yourself, if you don't understand what it takes to be able to make yourself feel better, then the variables will never change for you. Those variables will just constantly be recurring in your mind until you hurt yourself or another person, and it sucks. And realizing that those variables are controlled by thoughts, and it takes a really, really good amount of self-control to be able to realize those thoughts and just either go with them if they're good for you, or don't go if they're not. Be yourself and know that there are certain situations where you can be on top of a situation and still have no control because of the amount of variables that happen. Realize that there are certain situations to walk away from because of the amount of control that you have and the lack of control that everyone else does. And be a better person, because if you don't realize it today that you're a better person than you were yesterday, you woke up and you felt all the sleep that happened and you felt good afterwards, because we are cellularly created so we'll move on, because we couldn't stop thinking about what was yesterday. Realize what's tomorrow and be ready for it, because it's better for you to prepare for yourself. I am completely unprepared, by the way. I don't have anything brought up sometimes. I have certain paintings and certain things that I think I'm good at, and that I'm pretty good at. I've practiced my entire life, so. But also to realize that I haven't studied a lot of history. I've done some history, like Picasso, Degas, and freaking and Van Gogh, and a whole bunch of different people that have done so much different art that I'm thinking about in my head, and the amount of art that they do and they say they do sometimes is propaganda. Realize that it's insinuating an idea to you, that if you feel as though you've lived that, if you feel as though you've lived something like that, then it's trying to speak to you and say, you know you have control. You know you have control in a situation, and you know that your situation is different from anyone else's. Be yourself and know that there are certain situations that are out there that you have the best intentions. And if you have the best intentions, then everything works out, and people really do make a difference in people's lives. And there will be one day when I don't have to take medication, but I will realize the injustice I have given myself by not preparing and constantly going through whatever thoughts or fiction or non-fiction is in my that is buried deep within my subconscious, that I need a huge metaphorical shovel to get it out of there, and realize that it's just a book that I decided to read and pick up in a certain situation where my psyche was completely and utterly. It's like, that's what I do sometimes. It's my certain personality. How's it going, viewer? And if you want to message me, I'm about to go, but if you want to message me, you can. But in a certain situation, realize that there are people out there that are good, and there are people out there that are bad. But the certain variables that are through a certain person or a certain thing, and the intention that they have to either have gained notoriety or anything, glory is not evil. Having glory, having the glory of someone else's intentions or someone else's inspiration is not evil, but using that inspiration to manipulate and rob or hurt or maim or anything is wrong. And realize in certain situations that there's a lot of Josephs out there, and I wasn't the first, and I know that because I'm French. I'm not, and I don't think that Joseph itself was an Arabian name. I think it was Yosef or something like that. So so realize that there are really big changes that happen in your life, and in order for you to be prepared for the emotional damage, even if you're just sitting on a couch playing video games. Hey, shit. Even if you're just sitting on a couch playing video games, there are bigger reasons why you should think about your actions before you do them. Before you portray a part of yourself in which you've hid from the world for so long. Realize that there are things and people out there that have your back and want you to create an amazing thing. And through those amazing things, people want to be able to create something with themselves, and they want to be able to create a better future for people. There are bigger reasons why people themselves try to make a future in a certain place, and there are bigger parts of yourself that you really want to be able to make as something that people can understand. I make stuff that tries to inspire, or to be able to create something that not only I see, but I imagine in my mind. And through whatever modes of perspective I've used, because I definitely need to brush up on perspective, because I have I realized I needed to brush up on perspective, and it's what I needed to do. But I think I have a knack for what I create, I guess, or what I think I can create, and what I can create a lot of different stuff. I can draw pretty much anything in a certain format or in a certain thing, in a certain way, and I can draw chibi really easily. So there's a lot of things that I'm going to be able, and I'm going to want to create in a certain way and make realize that not a lot of stuff is in terrible situations is good. But there's a lot of people out there that have gone through so much that their reactions to things are wrong. It's like my dad going through the fucked up situations that he went through. The messed up person that he felt like he was. And the person that he felt like he was a person who thought that he could laugh at violence and realize the situations that happened. But through my dad's own sense of humor, he started to realize that what he was making was wrong. Or what the example that he was setting was wrong. And that's why my dad stays quiet now sometimes. And I really hope that sometimes he decides that he's finished with those thoughts, and realize that they weren't good for anyone. And I'm probably gonna die on this one. No, I didn't. Yeah! Oh, I did. Okay, so be yourself and realize the situations at hand, and always realize that if you are the variable of control, or the only one controlling in the situation, that sometimes there needs to be a reevaluation of the situation within itself, and a reevaluation of the people themselves that you surround yourself with. And know that if you ever need anything, I'll always be talking. Somehow. So, worse off self. These are my situations that I have. And these are the things that I created. I'm situatingly not looking out there, but I'm looking in my room, and I'm realizing that I have a messy bed and a bunch of socks, and that's a paint sock. That's actually a bunch of socks that I use as paint cleaners or brush cleaners, and I try so very hard to make a situation where I'm not lazy, but then I wind up being lazy again, and then realizing that I can't do something because I just can't bring myself to do it right now. And you can diffuse situations though before they happen. You can be a good example to people even if you're feeling depressed. Even if you're feeling wrong, or if you're feeling bad, or if you're feeling dirty or messed up, you can still be there for someone. But realize that certain situations that you go through need acknowledgement. And when you need acknowledgement, sometimes you need acknowledgement from other people, sometimes you need acknowledgement from yourself to realize there's a certain situation that you need to get out of. Be yourself, and I need to go to the bathroom, so this is where it ends. Have a good day.